Hey, it's Mr. Turk, and what I'm going to do today is if you know how to use Illustrator and you're part of the yearbook club, I was just going to walk you through how to make a text kind of background and export that as a ping file so that you could use it on your cell phone. And this is really only for experienced Illustrator users. So if you've taken Graphic Design 1 or Graphic Design 2, you'll be able to handle Illustrator. If you're not experienced with Illustrator, there may be some things that I'm talking about or some knowledge I assume you already have. So if it seems a little confusing, ask for help in class or talk to somebody who already has experience in graphic design, and they can kind of help you out if you actually want to do this yourself. So I've already made a file with multiple artboards. The artboards are set to an iPhone 6, 7, or 8 sized screen, which I think is a pretty common screen size. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking my type tool and making some text backgrounds using the hashtag we're trying to promote for this campaign. So switch to your type tool, which is the T key on the keyboard, or click on the type tool in your toolbox. And I'm just going to zoom in on this particular artboard right here. So Control-0 to kind of snap that in to view. And I'm just going to click once to make point type. And it's already got a font that I used on the artboard on the left. So I'm actually going to change the font. You can do that in the properties panel or the control panel. And right now we have a filter turned on, so I'm going to change that filter. And let's do a slab serif font. This right here, this Rockwell extra bold, is pretty interesting. So I think I'll do that. And then it reset. That's okay. Let's type our hashtag. So hashtag Bruins Turkey, celebrating Thanksgiving here. So I'm going to select all my text here and switch the font. Okay, so I've got my font set. For this particular ad, I want to make sure the text is really tight together. So I'm actually going to go into my kerning over here and switch it from auto to optical, and then we want to make sure the tracking is a little bit closer together. So if you hold down shift and the down arrow, that'll kind of smush the letters together. And I think the font size is pretty good. We don't want it to be so big that, you know, it becomes overwhelming. We just want it to be big enough to kind of repeat when we make our pattern. So now I'm going to deselect this object here. And if we wanted to, we could rotate it. We could kind of do whatever. I'm just going to make this really simple. And a really simple pattern would just be to do it in a grid or like bricks by row. So let's select our text and then go to Object, down to Pattern, and then click on Make. And by default, it's set to grid when our pattern options opens up. So I'm going to change it to brick by row. And then I'm actually going to move it a little bit closer together. So I can do that in these width and height boxes here. And if I hold down shift and down, that'll move it in larger increments, 10 pixel increments. So I'm going to go to the height box here and just hit down to kind of smush that together. And that looks okay. That looks good. If I wanted to play around with this anymore, I can move it around. I could change colors. I could do kind of whatever I want. So I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to highlight Bruins here and make that green just to get a little visual variety in there. And we'll leave Turkey black for now. And then yeah, I think I'm pretty much happy with this. Like I said, you can make your pattern however you want. Just use the width and the height box here. You know, play with the settings, kind of tweak it a little bit until you're happy with it. And then when you're done, go to the top of the screen where it says Done and click on Done. And your pattern will disappear, but it's a swatch in the swatches panel. So I'm actually going to move this down into my scratch space, and I'm going to switch to my rectangle tool over here in the toolbox, or hit the M key on my keyboard. And we're just going to make a rectangle that fills our cell phone screen artboard. And right now the fill is set to black, but if I go to my swatches panel, the new pattern I just made, the green and black one, if I click on that pattern, boom, it's filled here. So if I don't like generally the positioning of this or how it looks, right? Like it looks a bit too big, I can just double click on that pattern to open up the pattern dialog here. And actually I don't want to use my rectangle tool to edit this. I want to use my type tool. So I'm just going to make this just a bit smaller. So let's go to our type settings over here. In properties, you can change the type settings, or you can open up the type panel. That's another way to adjust this, but I'm just going to use my properties here. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to make it just a bit smaller. So I'm going to make that smaller. And then I'm going to go over to here, and instead of just using the width and the height boxes here, I'm going to click on the pattern tile tool, and I'm just going to take this edge and bring that in. And bring this down, because this is another way to kind of adjust the tile size. So if I click done, I'm actually going to edit the pattern already made, but if I just want another copy of this pattern so that I have 2 copies, I could click save a copy, but I'm just going to click done. And voila, it's updated. So if I think if I hit Control Z here, all right, nah, let's not do that. Let's just, instead of updating this, we'll save it as a copy so we can see the two together. Click OK. Click done. So I actually have 2 copies here. I have this one and I have this one right here. It didn't actually save a copy, so that's okay though. Basically, whenever you're making edits like this, right, you can just, saving a copy will allow you to kind of flip back and forth between the 2 versions, see which ones you like more. So I'm going to click done on that one. And then we're going to double click on this one. And we could do another thing with this. We could change the font, right? Let's do that instead. Let's just switch it from Rockwell Extra Bold to regular old Rockwell. And we'll do all caps. And we'll do, right now I'm just messing around because I can. We'll do it like this, and we'll click done. That way we have some contrast. So there's this one, and there's this one. And whichever one we like, right, that's the one we can export. I think these are both fine. But that's how you edit patterns, right? You just double click on the pattern and, you know, change the type. I've already got a bunch of these made, so feel free to edit these, change the colors, do whatever you want. And when you're ready, you can export these as individual PNG files or PNG files. So if I'm done editing these patterns and these backgrounds, I can export them. So to export them, you can go File, Export, Export for Screens. And the reason we want to do this is we're not exporting individual assets, we're exporting each individual artboard. So I've already exported these artboards, so I'm actually going to uncheck these boxes. And I'm just going to export artboard number 5 here. And you want to make sure you're exporting them as PNG files so that the background is transparent. And you'll see why in a little bit when I switch over to my cell phone and we're combining these two. So again, the export location is right here. If I click on this little folder icon, I can choose where these are placed. Right now I'm exporting them to this merge 2 photos on a cell phone folder. Just be mindful of where you're exporting your files to. Pick a location you will remember. So I'm going to click select folder, and you can actually change the name of these photos. You can give it a prefix. You can add more scales, like if you want a larger file size for, say, exporting these for an iPad or a website or whatever it is you want to export these for. But I'm just going to keep them at regular cell phone size because these are for Instagram. So I'm going to click Export Artboard, and you're going to get this little pop-up. It's going to pop up the export folder here. So in our 1x folder here, you can see the transparent background already, and the ping file is right here. So my other ones, I renamed this folder. My other ones are right here, and that's basically how you could make a transparent text background as a ping file using Illustrator. If you have any questions, ask for help, but only do this if you're really experienced with Illustrator and you feel pretty confident editing patterns and editing text.